How you doing, Lou?
I'm doing very good. How are we today?
I'm good. Welcome to Makeup or Breakup on a I was gonna say sunny, but not sunny. A very rainy day out there.
Yeah, and as you know, here in the studio, we're right under the metal roof, so I'm hearing the rain come and go, and it's pretty wild.
That's right.
We had a little coffee delay. We're here a couple minutes late, but it was a little coffy delay, so everyone can understand that.
That's right. Yeah. I had to have my cup of Joe, which was now 150 steps down.
Yeah, it's weird. I came into work the other day without tea because I just forgot it, basically. And it's like, it's amazing how a little thing can screw up your whole day. Just not having that there. Just, I don't know, little supportive habits, that type of thing.
That's right. And we just like our nice hot cup of something in the morning, you know?
Yep.
It's healthy for you too. Although they say you shouldn't drink tea and coffee first. You should have juice, water with lime juice in it, actually.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, like a cup of that first, just to sort of cleanse everything.
Yeah, they tell you to drink a ridiculous amount of water, but
right, I keep up. Exactly. Yeah. So last week we were talking quite a bit about narcissism, what it is, what it isn't, what it looks like, how it plays out, and in particular, how uncomfortable it can be when it's playing out in your life as a partner.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
There is nothing worse than, in my opinion, than getting caught up in the head games and the insidious kind of passive wheeled into the web that you end up being caught inside of.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's emotionally devastating, actually. I was going to say draining, but draining doesn't cover it. It's devastating.
It's devastating because it sneaks up on you. And a narcissist often presents themselves because of the web. It's like the spider in the web. They want to look attractive to the fly. They want to look like, oh, I'm just a nice spider. And I'm not even out in the web. I'm way over here. Don't worry about me. Right.
Yep.
But the reality is that it's all about, essentially, it's an illness when it's diagnosed, and it's a disorder when it's diagnosed. And it's impossible to beat when it's diagnosed. And people need to realize when you're with a narcissist, they ain't changing.
No, you don't fix narcissists. They don't get fixed.
No. But how many people have we known who most likely were dating or married to a narcissist who thought, I'll do this different. I'll do this. I won't do this. That's the worst part. I won't go out with my friends on Friday nights.
Yep.
Right? I won't go golfing on Saturday for 3 hours because that'll just upset her or him. Right?
Yeah. The two skills of a narcissist that are particularly devastating for people, to me anyway, is that they're very adept at picking people they can manipulate, right? This is where you have to assume your role in a relationship. And your role is you're the type of character who is susceptible to this type of behavior. And narcissists are very skilled at keeping you strung along. They know just how far to push and when to reel you back in, and just how far to push again and when to reel you back in. And again, they've picked you because you're susceptible to this. And we talk about narcissists like they're these evil madmen or mad women, and they kind of are, but a lot of this is instinctual. It's not necessarily intentional. They don't know they're picking you because you're easily manipulated. That's just the people they gravitate to, you know?
Mm-hmm. So you probably remember, like a year and a half ago, we covered this topic, because we do cover it, it seems, every 6 to 8 months. But quite a while ago, maybe even 2 years ago, in one of our shows, I was talking about an article that I had read, and it basically, I have to find it because I stored it somewhere in this crazy office that I call an organized office. They talked about the 8 different types of a narcissist. And it was a couple of, PhDs, therapists, they were like high-end, like psychotherapists. And they said there were 8 different types. And the main thing is what creates what creates a narcissist is often their upbringing.
Yep.
And so this starts early on. They are being groomed unconsciously by the people around them. And it's very often the golden child. So it's the child that got everything. They got all the attention. They might've been the prettier daughter or the the more handsome of the three sons.
Yep.
People would find them so, so adorable and whatnot that they would get the lesser punishment than like Joe and Billy, right? Who probably didn't even, their infractions were way less, right? They just rode their bicycle after 5 p.m. Whereas, the good looking golden child, well, he took the bike out for an hour after 5 o'clock and it wasn't even his bike.
Right. Yeah.
No, it was a sibling's bike and he basically stole it, but somehow he doesn't get the punishment that the other two got.
Yep.
And so what you're talking about is absolutely right. It's ingrained in them. It's in their fiber. It's who they are. And I am going to keep using the analogy of a spider web because I think it's such a good one. A spider doesn't wake up, on its 5th day and say, oh, I'm going to like make a web and I'm going to like, kill flies.
Yeah.
It's instinctual. It's the survival of the fittest. It's the way spiders work. And it's important to remember that the way the narcissist works, like I couldn't go out and train a bunch of spiders to not make a web and stop killing the flies and the ants. I'm just making that up, right?
Right.
I don't know if they really eat an ant, but I suppose if an ant went in there, why not, right?
Yep.
The narcissist is the same way because the narcissist basically at a very young age is treated differently typically in a family.
Yes.
Okay. It can be the reverse, but it's typically not. It's more common that this was the golden child growing up. Now, that can also be that they were brought up in a dysfunctional family.
Yep.
And so what happens is that child has to build themselves up because their drunken mom or drunken dad, whatever the situation is, the mom that kind of comes and goes and isn't really reliable as a parent, the home life is creating this child. And the child has to, you either sink or swim, right?
Right.
There's the kids that just go off and they can't handle it and they get depressed and unfortunately they get into drugs and things. And then there's the other ones that for whatever reason, they sort of figure I got to buck up and suck up and I've got to just like be very assertive. I won't say aggressive, but I have to be very assertive with what I want in life and what I'm going to get. And so those are dangerous people too, because they can look, that kind of a narcissist later in life can look like a successful person, right? Because they come out of their home life fighting for everything, with all the puny amount of energy and self-esteem that they don't even have. They create their self-esteem.
Right.
So what happens is that one's not really instinctual. That's more an instinct of survival of the fittest. And they try to emulate what they see on TV or, what little they see in life for what successful is, which unfortunately, what they view in a warped way of success is they see people who have money, don't necessarily have great, they have no scruples.
Yeah.
They just fight for whatever they can get. And people that come out of that fight for my life kind of environment can be really tough on other people because it's like, look, I did it, you can do it.
Yep.
And as a boss, they become that manager that says, well, I've done it, so you can do it. And if you don't do it and put all these extra hours in like I used to do, then you're fired.
Right.
So they can be just brutal in a relationship. And the problem is because they're successful, they attract men and women who aren't. So men and women are often attracted to what they don't have. So the opposites attract, right? So, making this up. I answer the phones for the local garbage pickup company. Not very illustrious. They treat me well. My benefits are good. And I'm making $23,000 a year and I can have a small apartment. Life's not horrible. And I have a pretty nice family and I've got some nice friends, but money's not pouring in.
Right.
I meet a guy at a bar or as a guest at a wedding, who's charming. He seems to like have this like aura about him, like I'm in command, right?
Yeah.
And you find out later he's got this great executive position with IBM. And you find out that he dresses well because he makes so much money. And the big bonus here, because you only make $23,000 a year, or I only make $23,000 a year, they travel on business and they can take trips to the Caribbean. I can't do that, right?
Yep.
So because I'm the opposite, and I'm a really nice person, right? I've got a really nice family. I get along with my sister. I was married before, but I have a great kid, right? So I'm kind of a good package. I'm a nice person, but I'm attracted, unfortunately, to this person that really seems to have their life together. In my mind, their life is more together than mine, and I'm basing it on their success, right?
Right.
And the problem with that is, I always say this. I've had therapists that told me this. Thank God they said it to me early on. Opposites attract.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to keep them together, because at the end of the day, Lou, and several years later, Lou, the recognition is, oh my God, we're so opposite.
Yeah.
Right. And that is what happens when you get entangled with a narcissist. But the difference is, in a situation where you don't have narcissism, you can think about separating and divorcing this person, and you can also think about fixing the marriage. With a narcissist, plan B is not an option. You're not fixing anything with a narcissist. That marriage is never going to be fixed. It's never going to be fair. It's never going to be good. Right?
Well, that relationship is all about filling the need.
Option A is
that relationship is all about filling the need of the narcissist. I mean, that's the bottom line. So it's a one-way street. And the only time the only way you can extend a relationship with a narcissist is being willing to take on that deal. That it's about the narcissist and it's about their needs and fulfilling it.
Exactly. Exactly. And the difficulty is, which is why we talk about this up front before we talk more about the narcissism, as you and I have talked about, they're often the life of the party. They're often successful. They're often charming. Even if they're not monetarily successful, they're charming. I mean, these are the men and women that, even though they can't necessarily keep a job, when they have a job, they come across as being successful, right? Because it's all about their self-talk and convincing themselves that they're top dogs and that they're in control. And the only way they can be in control is wingman.
The only way they can keep control is maintaining their self-image and putting on this show. And the thing is that they often exhibit qualities that we all want. They often exhibit qualities of being gregarious. They're good in social situations. They're adventurous. They seem to be fearless in a lot of ways, confident. People like them, all things we aspire to. And people who have some social anxiety and things like that are often drawn to these people because they think some of it's going to rub off. And, in a way it kind of does, which is one of the intoxicating parts of it. If you're with the belle of the ball, you're with the belle of the ball. That's a good thing.
It can be fun for a while. You can get swept into it. You're doing the dance in the web, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, and the thing is, again, we're describing it as a web because the unsuspecting, I'm going to say really the victim, who's the nice guy, right? Or the really nice woman who just goes along with people and never never puts her hands on her hips and says, heck no, we're not going to your friend's house again to watch a baseball game. They're the ones that say, oh, okay. Because they feel like what you said, they feel like these people have such a command that at the beginning we do acquiesce. We do go along with everything because we're kind of smitten, right?
Yep.
And it can be intoxicating, and then it's fun, and sometimes they can be more exciting for the other person because sometimes the nice person's a little quieter. They're not necessarily.
Plus, the narcissist picks empathetic people. So if the person wants to go to the party, wants to go to their friend's house, and the empathetic person is going to say, well, it's not necessarily what I want to do it today, but they need it. They enjoy this. It's going to be fun for them. And, I'll find some fun too, and just go along with it. And so they're picking people who will give in like that because that's what they need. And, you're that person. It's just, and because again, you want them to be happy. You want them to have the day that they want to have. Right. Exactly. The problem is it's unbalanced. Yep.
And I'll tell you the one thing, the worst part about being with a narcissist, and I've been with probably two. I think see if you can if this resonates with you. One of the worst parts of being with a narcissist, and I always tell my clients, if I'm trying to help them assess without, an actual diagnosis from a psychotherapist, if we're trying to really kind of look at it and say, you're hitting 9.5 out of 10 points here on the scale.
Yeah. One
of the ways that I look at the environment is how controlling it is. And here's the real litmus test. Have you ever, I feel like it's one of those jokes. Have you ever, have you ever been with someone that you're pretty sure was a narcissist, thinking about what those characteristics are, and you tried to stick up for yourself, or you tried to have a different view, like, well, maybe can we go there? Can we go to your friend's house tomorrow because the baseball is on Saturday and Sunday?
Yep.
So today I kind of thought maybe we could just go visit my mom at the nursing home. Well, I don't know if you've ever tried to finagle that. And if you've ever tried to change the plans, which basically is suggesting something different than what your narcissistic partner wants. But that just infuriates them because they just can't believe that their idea isn't the best one on the planet.
Right.
And God forbid you're doing this more than once during your relationship. And what happens is now the narcissist is like, okay, it's almost like this little alarm is going off in their head, like, whoop, whoop, OMG, my wife or my girlfriend or my boyfriend doesn't get it. That's not an option. Going to see the mom tomorrow on Saturday wasn't even on the table. So no, right?
Yep. It's not filling their need. So
it's not filling their need.
Yep.
And have you ever had an argument with them because of things like this, where you actually tried to just really nicely have a suggestion? It doesn't even mean it's this week. Okay, let's be crazy, Lou. Can we go visit my mom maybe in the next couple of weeks? Because I'm the nice person, right? I'm the one that's with the narcissist. And the argument that comes, have you ever been caught up in the web, which I call the argument? Because they cannot let it go.
It always turns back on you. It always turns back on you.
Yeah. Right. I mean, at some point, you'll inevitably hear the words, I can't even believe that you would do this to me, right? It's always like, I can't believe you would do this to me.
Yeah.
You know how much I like baseball. You know I wanted to go there on Sunday. And now you're suggesting that we go see your mom also?
How can you be so selfish?
How can you be so selfish? Those are the words that you'll hear from a narcissist, which is interesting because you've been so selfless all along, right?
Yep.
But one of the most stressful parts of it, and the part that really upsets friends and family who see it, is those tense, stressful, I'm going to call them conversations, because sometimes you're at a barbecue and, you're off to the side a little bit. And, for me, it would be like Bill trying to make his point. Well, excuse me, Bill, we're at a barbecue. Don't be taking up all this time. But Bill's not going to let it go.
Right.
So Bill, the narcissist, he can take me to the mat. No joke. I'm not making this up. A narcissist can argue with you all about how they're right and you're 100% wrong, by the way.
Yep.
That they're complete. It can go on for 3 or 4 hours. Have you ever had that? This long thing where you're like, this was a 5-minute thing. It shouldn't have been an hour or 2 hours.
Right.
They can't have that. It's awful.
Take the loss. They can't take the compromise. Because again, it's not filling their self-identity need. And this is the most important thing you're talking about. We're talking about narcissists filling a need. But that need is often external. In other words, they are less concerned about their own self-image, what they think of themselves, than they are about what everybody else thinks of them.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, they would rather, they don't really, they already have a very bad opinion of themselves if they let themselves sit with it for any period of time, but they don't. They live in the world of other people and their impressions of them. So they surround themselves with situations and people that reflect on them positively. And when you're not doing that, you become the enemy. And the response becomes very intense because you're dealing, you're not breaking their own self-image. That's already broken. You're breaking the image of the external image that they want to see reflected on them. And they didn't pick you for that. They picked you to feed their self-image.
That's right.
Right?
Oh my gosh, that's right. Because they do pick you. And it's one of the things that I tell my clients, because they usually are the nice guy or that nice woman that is just so sweet. Like, these are the men and women that you want to meet and date, right? Unfortunately, some of them get entangled with a narcissist, but when they're my clients, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I have to work on their self-esteem and all these different things that have been torn down over the years with these people. But those arguments are so telling, because when I work with a client, I'm like, let's talk about, the negative aspects of what's going on in your relationship. Because if I can possibly do marriage repair work, that's where I really want to sit, right? I'm not trying to divorce people. Right. I want to try to repair as many marriages as I can. But when I start to see all these symptoms and I see how these arguments go for literally, like, they can go all night. Like, the expression, they'll take you to the mat. Yep. And they're just they're going to be at it. They're not going to be like, they won't just like, do the touching on the mat and it's over. It's like, oh no, this is like, it's almost like a cat playing with a mouse, but they will beat you over the head with the same sentences. That's the best part, because I've had clients where I'll say, like this woman I worked with a few years ago, I'm like, Jane, I don't understand it. I don't want to hear every sentence, but I just don't understand. What could you guys possibly argue about? How could you possibly be in an argument like for 3 hours? Like, Lou, I've had arguments with exes. I've never had one that went for like 3.5 hours, but with a narcissist, you will. And the two people that I had that were narcissists, I'm pretty sure they could go pretty long, but it's because of the control. They cannot back away and say, because this is what I tell people when I'm doing marriage work, Lou, like, this will make sense to you in a relationship at a certain point. And I'm not saying 3 hours in. The healthiest thing for you and I to do with our spouse or your girlfriend is to say, okay, I see I get it. You know what? Even if you feel like they're 99% wrong or their view is like super messed up, this is it. You go, you know what? Let's just agree to disagree and let's just table this for now.
Yeah.
We can always talk about it again tomorrow, whatever. Like, Rome wasn't built in a day. Right. This topic, no matter what it is, right? I don't care if it's like redecorating the kitchen or whatever it is. Buying a cat, whatever it is. It's like at a certain point, a healthy person is able to step out of the sticky web and say,
yep,
I'm willing to put the gauntlet down, if you will. Let's table it.
Yeah, this is not productive anymore. This is not.
Yeah,
it's just not productive.
Right. And I always tell my clients, look, there's no such thing as 50-50. Sometimes clients will say to me, whether it's a narcissist or not that they're married to or that they're dating, you know what? I'm sick and tired of always being the one to say I'm sorry or to bring up the stuff or whatever it is, right? And I'm like, okay, but there is no such thing as 50-50, Lou. And you may be better at doing something and I might be better at doing something. And that's just the way it is. It's never ever going to be.
That right. Something may be arguing, by the way.
No, and that's the thing.
Because there's imbalances in the way people approach conflict.
Right.
And that's often a trouble point. So I'm a very conflict averse person and I don't like to get in and battle.
You're tabling it after 7 minutes.
Yeah. I won't do it. I just won't do it. If it's counterproductive for me, and listen, I've been doing talk radio for almost 30 years now. And so I understand about debate and I understand about discussions and moving points. And when someone starts moving the point, I'm done. In other words, we start talking about what color the living room should be. And you end up talking about, something that I did, 6 months ago.
Right.
You've just moved the argument. We're not being productive here at all anymore. And it's causing more harm than it's doing good.
Right. So what I say to people is, step back and picture yourself with your best friend. So I'll say, okay, Jane, picture yourself with Betty. Like, does Betty have a good marriage? So I find someone that has a good marriage. Yeah. Betty and Bob are a great couple. They've been together for like 25 years, which means they've had an opportunity. Let's word it in a positive way. They've had an opportunity to argue and disagree about things. So I say, well, you're really good friends with them and they've been married for 25 years. Wow. So they have a pretty good marriage. Yeah, they do. So I say, okay, so now tell me what Betty looks like. So they describe, pretend she looks like me. So she's got brownish blondish hair and She likes to wear blue tops. I don't know. And she has pink flowers in her house all the time because that is what I do. Okay, tell me about Bob. So now my client describes you. So, well, Bob's a great guy. He loves sports, but he also, really likes being outside. He likes the beach. And, a lot of times Betty will say, hey, I really feel like going for a walk. And, Bob would rather be like, cooking his dinner because he's kind of hungry. But a lot of times he'll just go on a walk with her and they grab the dog. Like, I'm making that up, right?
Yep.
So I'm like, wow, that sounds like a really healthy couple. So I want you to pretend that that your friend Betty. So she's like, okay. And so I'm going to be Bob. So she pretends she's Betty. And I'm like, okay, well, tell me, pretend, what does Betty like to do? In her spare time? Oh, well, she likes to read Agatha Christie books. She likes to read. I'm like, okay, Betty, I'm going to be Bob. I want you to tell me about the book that you're reading. So I said, we're going to role play. So Jane, AKA Betty, has to come up and say, okay, hey, holding up any book. Hey, look I got this great book today at the bookstore. It's one of the oldest Agatha Christie books. This is actually true because it's one of my favorites, And it's called 10 Little Indians. It's also called And Then There Were None. It's a great book. And it's about these people that are slowly picked off in this mansion during a weekend stay.
Yep.
And it's a whodunit kind of mystery, right? And so I'm like, okay, so pretend that you're Betty and you're excited about your book and you're going to talk about it. So she starts. I'm like, whoa, wait. I said, now remember, I'm Bob. So I'm like, okay. So I'm like, hey, wait a minute. I don't really have time for that. I already planned that we're going to be having meatloaf tonight. And I like to make my meatloaf. My meatloaf is the number one thing. That's it. And so I'm going to go work on my meatloaf. And so Betty, you're going to try to follow me in. So she follows me in. I'm like, look, you keep trying to talk to me about your book. So she keeps trying. And I'm like, you know what? So I start going, look, you're so selfish. I've been working all day. The most fun that I have every night is my cooking. You know that, Betty. So why are you doing this to me? I want to be doing this. This is what I want to do. You know how much I like to cook. I want to hear about your book. That's it's not even interesting to me. And now that we're on the topic, you know how I like to cook. Why are there some dirty dishes here in the kitchen?
Yeah.
Well, Betty, you know what? That's really not okay. See, you're stammering. You don't even have an excuse. When I'm in the kitchen, I cook and I clean it. I cook and I clean it. How am I supposed to even make my meatloaf now? Now you've ruined my whole night. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
This is what the narcissist does, because you know what they do? They throw this huge guilt on the person over anything. It could even be
Yep.
The narcissist wanted to take a walk with the dog and Betty's too tired because Betty's a waitress and works all day. I don't know. Right.
Yep.
But do you see what's happening?
Yep.
The narcissist makes it all about them and then accused her of being selfish because she wants to talk about her book.
Right.
And then he looks around the kitchen and he starts to attack her because she didn't clean up a couple of dishes today. Right. And until she says she's sorry, he's not going to stop. And so afterward, I do this for 15 minutes. I need to make the point. It's 15 minutes. So Jane is like, well, Bob and Betty don't do that. I said, ding, 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 ding. And what kind of marriage do they have? Well, on a scale of 1 to 10. She's like, well, it's a 10. I said, ding, 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 ding.
Yep.
So the operative word here is Bob and Betty don't do it. And they have a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10 marriage. Bob's not doing that to Betty. Jane, and that was 15 minutes. That was me going cuckoo with you, Jane. Okay. But when you describe to me your marriage on a scale of 1 to 10, we've already talked about this. It's about a 3.5.
Yeah.
Right. Because I work with her to come up with a legit scale. I check in with my clients every week on a scale of 1 to 10. How do you feel things are right now? So not only that, but did you see how hard that was for you? When you're pretending to be somebody else, you took it as a role play and you knew your role was to keep on talking about the book. But in real life, Jane, you don't do that.
Wouldn't do that. No, you'd never do that. Yeah.
Right. in real life, what you're doing is you've got someone like I just showed you, but that 15 minutes is like times 20, because this person your husband will argue with you sometimes for 3 hours. And not only that, here's the best one. When Jane tries to go out to the kitchen, like, I'm just going to like try to walk away and just keep, do you think the narcissist spouse likes it when they walk out of the room into another room?
No, not at all. Let's talk
about what does the narcissist spouse do when you do that?
They follow you. They keep going.
They follow you.
Yeah.
Follow you.
Let's talk about Cheryl's comment here, because I think it's interesting. She says that my husband can argue / lecture, which is so telling, and it's so accurate. I love the way that's phrased. Can argue / lecture up to 5 hours at a time, and I would be exhausted. Right. Has either of you ever seen any narcs change?
No. I think Cheryl missed the beginning of the show. Yeah. A narcissist, a borderline personality / narcissist who is diagnosed as such, can never change. That's the thing that people have to realize. They cannot change.
Right.
Because it's a disorder. I mean, let's just call it what it is. It is a psychotherapist's, honest to goodness, like, analysis. I mean, you have to be diagnosed. And when they're diagnosed, there's no prescription. There's no cure for it.
What makes that difficult for people is that in the course of the relationship, they have changed, because they were these nice, well-together people who are kind and loving and adored you at the beginning of the relationship. And then things did change, when in fact they didn't change. They just showed more of themselves as time went on. And the only thing that can change in a narcissistic relationship, or a relationship with a narcissist, is you change, your reactions to their personality. I remember my narcissist, and again, I don't think she was a narcissist. I think she was more personality disorder. But often those are on a narcissist scale. There are a lot of
they're often together,
right? Mm-hmm. And they exhibit a lot of traits, a lot of the same traits. One thing she told me one time, she said, "You can't blame a pig for having a short neck," and that's the attitude you have to take with narcissists. You almost can't blame them for being narcissists, because it's just intrinsic in who they are. I remember, do you know the fable of the frog and the scorpion? Do you know that one?
No. What's that one?
There's a river, and a scorpion wants to cross the river, and he's talking to a frog on the edge of the river. He goes, "Can you take me across the river?" And the frog says, "I'm going to take you across the river. You're a scorpion. You'll sting me and kill me." He says, "No, I just want to get across the river." And so after a while of talking, the frog says, "Okay, let's do it." And the scorpion gets on his back, and they start going across the river. And they're in the middle of the river, and the scorpion stings the frog. And the frog looks at the scorpion and goes, "Now we're both going to die. Why would you do that?" And the scorpion looks at him and goes, "Because I'm a scorpion." Right? It's just who the scorpion is.
It's what they do.
It's what they do. And this is the way you have to approach a narcissist as well. You can't blame a pig for having a short neck. Narcissists just do what they do because that's who they are. And it's not going to change. You can't fix them. All you can do is modify your behavior towards them, allow for it as much as possible, if that's what you want to do. But you have to approach it that way. You have to approach it as, I'm the one who has to change. I have to accept this if this is going to continue.
Right. And the thing is, it's pretty hard to accept it and to stay in it, because it can be very unhealthy. So before I talk about the book that we talked about last week, which was Healing from a Narcissistic.
By the way, I want to address, because Cheryl came back and she talked about exactly, she's looking for the loving, attentive, wonderful version of a husband again. Here's the thing about this, and you talked about characteristics of a narcissist, how you know you have one. One of the most irritating for me was, once I was aware of what was going on, was they are constantly grooming supply. This is not a term we've used so far with narcissists. Narcissists need supply. They need that feeding of their self-image, and they're always grooming supply. So if you've got a husband who always has very close friendships with women, flirty friendships, the work wife type of situation.
Work female friends.
Right. That type
female of roommate if they separate.
Right. Or they're out, they're the belle of the ball. They go to social situations and they're always laughing it up with women. That's grooming supply. That's getting it. They may not be getting it sexually, or they may not be getting it romantically, but they're getting, oh, isn't he a nice guy? They've got a bunch of women around. Isn't this, he's such a nice guy. I love hanging out with him. I love, having drinks with him or something like that. Your narcissist is always grooming supply. And when they're really high on supply, they are more, they are more tough with you. When they're low on supply, you're great. When they're high on supply, they get tough with you. And a lot of times your stock is based on how much supply they have in their lives.
Yeah, that is so interesting that you brought that up, because it's reminding me of the guy in San Francisco that I'm pretty darn sure was, borderline and narcissist, right? It was hard to see it because with the success and everything, I'm like, no, he's just successful. It's like other people were like, no, he's a narcissist. I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting. But then the lack of empathy, the always having to be right, the long arguments for hours, like it was all there. I just wasn't very familiar with it because I was in my, mid to late 30s by that point.
Right.
But what is so interesting is it's so funny that you said that, because we did talk about that once, that as soon as they see trouble in paradise and they see that you're starting to speak up to them, they are quickly, if they don't have the supply, Lou, they're looking for a supply.
They're lining it up. They're absolutely lining it up. Yes.
They're lining up because remember, if there was a way for the fly to get out of the web and the fly starts arguing its way out, right? And you're the spider in the web and your wife or your girlfriend or your boyfriend is starting to get outside into the bigger stretches of the web.
Yeah.
You're like, oh no, I have no fly to eat. I have no fly to play with, to mess with, to control in my web. So they look for others. And when I think back on that guy, it's exactly what he did. And that really kind of led to a lot of jealousy for us, because I'm like, what's with all the women? Like, can you honestly not have dinner with a man? Is there something wrong with you? Like,
but it's a Wizard of Oz type of situation. It's like, don't look behind that curtain. What happens when you go from the narcissist is very attentive to you and very loving to you. They feel confident in the curtain that they have up between the two of you. But as the relationship goes on and they start to see that you start to see their flaws, because narcissists are frauds and know they are. So they're always very leery about you seeing their true nature. So when you start pointing out blemishes in a normal relationship, if couples see blemishes in another, they just sit down and work it out. Right. Betty and Bob that you talked about, if they have a difference, they'll work it out. But to a narcissist, that's a death of self. Once the other person becomes close enough to you to see your flaws, that's just eroding your self-image. And you can't have that. You can't live with that. So what you're going to do is find somebody who knows you less, who really thinks you're he's a great guy. He's funny. He's interesting. I always love hanging out with him. They'll find that supplier, that person who's still at that stage. And eventually what will happen is everybody gets behind the curtain if the relationship lasts long enough, and the narcissist will move on. They're constantly grooming supply. They
are. But here's the interesting part. When clients say to me, I can't believe he's got a girlfriend already, or I can't believe she remarried so quickly. Like, you divorced this narcissist, 3 months later, they're almost engaged to somebody. Well, because what was it? They were grooming people.
They were down the road. They were
already grooming people, and they were already preparing themselves mentally to do as much to get away from you and not put up with your crap, which is basically you pushing back.
Right.
And by the way, they're going to leave a trail of garbage along the way. They're going to disparage you to friends, pastors, anyone that you had in common. They're going to leave this trashy trail. They're going to pick up the phone at 9 o'clock at night and call your best friend.
Yep.
I just want you to know that Lou is, they want everybody to know their side.
That's another Wizard of Oz analogy that's often used with narcissists. They call it's the flying monkeys, right? When the relationship starts to break down in an effort to keep their self-image with other people in your circle, they will go disparage you because it makes them look better. And it's called setting the flying monkeys. And it happens in relationships where you have a lot of common people. There's a lot of people in your common circles that they're going to have to deal with.
Yep. And then of course these other people who sometimes didn't even see a lot of it are like, what the heck? Why did I just get carbon copied on that email?
Yep.
To Jane, Jane's husband, he did that. In addition to these really long conversations, these arguments, they're not even conversations, but these arguments where he would just like go on and on and on, making his point.
Yep.
You're all wrong. I'm all right. You're the jerk. Meanwhile, Jane's like, she's a really nice person. She just wanted to go golfing with her girlfriends, once a week so that they could, get better for some charity for, like, I think it was breast cancer. It doesn't matter. Even if there was no charity they were getting ready for, Jane should be able to golf every Saturday.
It's taking to the ultimate. Remember when you were kids and it's like there was always the argument of who broke up with who?
Right.
Because you didn't want to be the one that was broken up with. With a narcissist, they can't stand to be the one that was left. It has to be, I left them. They had all these problems. I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't handle it. They were the problem. I wasn't the problem, because with a narcissist, it's all about self-image.
Right. Exactly. And again, it's self-centered. It's all selfish, and it's egotistical. It's ego-driven, and it's lack of empathy. I don't care if I'm hurting your feelings with every sentence I'm saying to you in the 3 hours, right?
Yep.
Like, I'm going to say the worst things I can think of.
Yep.
You're the worst mother I've ever seen. Which has nothing to do with what the topic is, right?
It's punishment for pointing out their flaws.
Right.
They clearly want you to understand that kind of behavior will not be tolerated.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is when you're in a narcissistic relationship, what happens is you learn that very quickly. And a lot of times I remember thinking, I'm not going to bring this up, because I remember thinking in my head, I can be upset at whatever the problem is, or I can bring it up and I can be upset at the problem and upset at her reaction. So I'm better off just being upset at the problem and just trying to deal with it, because there was never anything productive in pointing out the problem. That never was a productive relationship, that a productive discussion. That was never a discussion I walked away from feeling better, because there wasn't that, the relationship wasn't as important as the narcissist being right or being justified. And, they'll rationalize it any way they need to.
Right. Exactly. So, when you look at these descriptions and characteristics that we're talking about, when I think of working with clients to re-educate them, if you will, to sort of, it's like I have to rewire their brain to understand that they were pulled into this web, that they were targeted, that they are a victim, but they want to be a survivor. So what do I do differently? So I'm going to talk about some of the things that, what makes for a positive relationship or a positive marriage, right? And the number one thing, I was taking some notes last night that I wanted to talk about. The number one thing is choices. A marriage or a relationship is made up of choices, right?
Yes.
You should be making these choices every day and have these in your head. And so should your partner. If you have a partner that doesn't seem to be emulating these choices, then you know that you're mismatched. And the key is, don't marry it, drop it. Don't marry it, date it for 1 or 2 or 3 weeks or months, however long it takes for you to see this, and move on. You see the signs, track it down, right? You see a flashing yellow light, don't ignore it. That's the thing. Because a lot of us who got entangled, when we look way back, Lou, to what went on toward the beginning, or maybe even a year into it, but then we started to see some little things. We're like, what was that?
Yeah.
Right? Or is it really that Bob, the brother, is a total jerk? Or is it the woman that I'm with? Because I like Bob, and I think Bob has a great wife, and I like how Bob lives in Wyoming. Is it really him? You start to go, then there's another person that they tear down, and you go, really?
Right.
I think Emily, the teacher, is pretty decent. I think she's a great teacher for your kids.
Yeah.
Is it really Emily? Or is it you being overly critical? You have to give yourself permission to think about these things. So when you're making choices, when you're in a healthy marriage or you're in a healthy relationship, you're making choices. You choose to believe that this person is giving you the honest truth when they're talking to you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then you choose to communicate, and you choose to communicate accurately when you're asking for things or you're explaining something. And remember, these are things you're looking for in the other person too. A healthy marriage or relationship would have communicating well, positively. So if you're with a person that attacks you all the time and it goes on for an hour or two, well, they're already not making the checklist, right?
Right.
You choose to let go of old baggage. So when you've been in a bad relationship where maybe you had a, unfortunately you had a divorce, you need to move forward. The only way you can move forward to be in a healthy relationship is that you're choosing to let go of that baggage. Okay.
Yep.
The other thing is choosing to forgive. That's a big one. And that's why, Lou, we always say, don't even get engaged for at least a year. Let's go crazy, right?
Yeah.
Even that's too soon. But you will know if you're with a person that's a positive, healthy partner, if they can forgive. You choose to forgive. You don't forget, but you forgive people. You say, okay, I forgive them for that. Is the other person forgiving you as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Or are there strings attached?
Right.
And the other aspect is, the first one that we were talking about is just general, but the second one is that you also choose to forgive big stuff. Okay. If the other person is healthy and engaging in this loving relationship that you have to be willing to forgive even the bigger things. So it's easy to forgive you for like being an hour late for dinner. It's not so easy to forgive you if I find out that you've, been having lunch every single day with a woman at work.
Yeah.
I don't find that appropriate for whatever reason. Maybe it is, right? The other thing is choosing to be unselfish, okay, over being selfish. And that means compromising, letting the other person have their way many times because like I might not want to sit and watch baseball with you, but I know you really like it. But then I want to see it from you. Okay. I don't want to go to Judith's sewing circle and, knit mittens, but it's really important for me to go and at least be with her one night so I can meet these women who are making mittens for homeless people in shelters in Boston, whatever it is.
Right.
The thing that gives me joy is, say, that charity work. I want you to be at least come alongside me with it. Doesn't mean you have to be knitting also.
Right.
But
at times your partner has to prioritize you over their own needs. At times your partner has to prioritize the relationship over their own needs. And if you don't see a willingness to do that, you've got major problems unless you're willing to accept what a one-way street that is. I just want to. Cheryl's still watching, and she's sent notes. You can read them when we get off the air here. But and we talked about this a little bit last week, and I think this is really important when you're in a relationship with a narcissist and when you're recovering from a relationship with a narcissist. The turning point for me, and I think it's a turning point for most people, is you have to stop thinking about what the narcissist did and ask yourself why you let it happen. In other words, why you stayed. What did the narcissist fill in you that kept you through all of this? And usually it's fear of being alone. You get to a certain age, a certain point in life, you go, I don't want to be alone. I'll probably never find anybody again. That fear that always comes up, that always holds us back from things. Or I liked being with him in social situations because he was the alpha dog. He was very popular. Everybody liked him. And I liked, somehow that served my needs a little bit. Ask yourself why you put up with this relationship, because if you get people in their quiet times, when they'll sit down and talk to you who are in relationships with narcissists, they'll tell you it's hell. Right. But then you have to ask the question, well, why are you staying then? And they have to ask themselves, why? What does this relationship do for them? Because again, often there's something about your personality that made you a candidate for this relationship. And often it's because you're a giver. And you're often, and I'll go through this as my personal journey. So, you can take it for what it's worth. Often it's because you're a giver, and often you're a giver because you have self-esteem issues and you feel like if you keep giving, if you keep supplying the other person's needs, you become worthwhile. And the only way you're worthwhile is being a plus to that person. And that's not a healthy relationship.
Right. Well, and very often these are people that are giving too much in other ways in life, right? They give too much of their time to, I don't know. Most people put in an hour a month with the first graders class, right?
Well, that's how they're building self-worth. They're building self-worth.
It's all about self,
Right.
Are you overspending with friends and family? Are you the one that, instead of just, letting people live their lives, are you always trying to go in and fix things? Are you always giving, and usually over giving, like more inappropriately, I'd say?
It's it's kind of the opposite of a narcissist in that people are not going to like me unless I prove my worth through giving of myself.
Right.
And the dirty little secret of this whole thing is you have worth. You have worth without compromising everything, without ignoring your own boundaries, without giving yourself over completely. You have worth, and you should be with someone who understands that worth.
Right. Exactly. So,
and with guys, it's very narcissistic women are particularly troublesome for guys because guys love the damsel in distress.
Right.
And they want to be the white knight. They want to fix everything. They want to go in and fix everything. That's the way guys are. And narcissist women will let them do that till they drop.
They take advantage of it.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So I think that'll be the thing that we focus on here at the end of today's show, which is the main number one theme that anyone will talk about when they talk about a narcissist is that, and the last word is italicized. It's all about them.
Yeah.
Capitalize them, italicize them. Here's the need to know revelation about narcissists. Whatever they do, it's never about you.
Yep.
So then in this book, which we're looking at this week, talking about the recovery for someone that's been in a relationship with a narcissist, they talk about in the beginning. So it's kind of a good segue out. How much time do we have? Like 5 more minutes?
Oh, we can go as long as you want.
Okay. All right. So in the beginning, we'll cover this one.
Yep.
So the last point that we're going to circle back on here that we talked about today is that it's all about them. And we talked about that in arguments, in activities, in, getting money from you, whatever it is, it's all about them. Right. I need money. I need your time. I need you to cook. I need you to clean, whatever it is.
And they find people who are willing to live with that to an extent. And chances are, if you're with a narcissist, you're that person.
Exactly. So you have to really step back and say, why am I doing that? And I have to stop doing that because it's not serving me well, clearly, in my life. Right.
Right.
So when you first met and fell in love with the narcissist in your life, you were attracted to the charming, confident, easygoing, super friendly way he appeared. Well, this one talks about primarily, the majority of them are men. Yep. But anyway, so she says this is, he, but let's see, the super friendly way he appeared to be in the world. You probably felt really valued and enveloped in the center of his attention.
Right.
Rather like you were the only two people in the world. You felt special, selected, exceptional, or even privileged to have the attraction of someone so fully and completely.
Right.
You, like, when you're together, things are great, is basically what it is, right? When other people come in the mix, it's not so great because they don't really like the attention going away from them. But when it's just the two of you, it's great, quote unquote.
But everybody loves him and he chose you.
Exactly. You feel like you're the lucky one.
Yeah.
Right. You may actually have fallen in love in those first few moments. Okay. What a narcissist will show you, usually within the first session with a client, because this woman is a psychotherapist, I will be asked, is my husband or wife really a narcissist? The second question is, will he or she ever get better? So this is for all the Cheryls out there.
Yep.
To answer the first question, let's look at the behaviors and traits that identifies narcissism. In chapter 3, she covers information on why narcissists rarely get better. Narcissists create a glamorized false self or a persona to show to the world, which is exactly what we've been talking about this whole hour. This image of superiority, which I love that word, right? Because they come across as being, they feel like they're superior to others. And their friendliness is usually easygoing and sociable. It's exactly what you and I were describing with the two people that we dated.
Right.
When a narcissist sets his sights on you and turns on the charm, it's almost mesmerizing. The attention and solicitude feel so good. You may get pulled in by his superior disdain for the conventional and mundane, which can appear contemporary and edgy.
Yeah.
You feel cool and exclusive to be included in his world. When Amy met Chuck, she was impressed by his knowledge and confidence about seemingly everything. This gave her a sense of truly being in the presence of someone exceptional, and it made her feel special. Because remember, they appear to have control over their life, and control means success and looking successful.
Right.
What's below the surface? Below the facade of charm, humor, beguiling attentiveness, boastful self-confidence as they go out in the world, and their stories of successes and accomplishments is actually a completely different person. One who is deeply selfish, very needy, and very controlling. The term narcissism is used to denote people who are at their core. Now, this is important to think about. They are self-centered, self-absorbed, calculating, because they know what they're up to.
Yep.
And they are manipulative. They hide and deny, even to themselves, these inner flaws while presenting a perfect image to the world. Here's the next thing. How can you tell whether a person is a narcissist? I use the duck test. That is, and this is so funny because I always say this to people.
Yep.
If it looks like a duck and it sounds like a duck, it probably is a duck.
Yep.
There are no physical blood tests for a narcissist. There's no MRI that can show a narcissist. And there's no exact determination that can identify narcissism.
Right.
Even therapists have to go on their observations of the behavior, attitudes, and reactions that a person presents to determine narcissism, which is why I say, they have to be diagnosed.
Which is difficult for them because the narcissist is presenting what they think the psychiatrist, what the counselor wants to hear.
Right.
They're not presenting, they'll never present themselves for real in a therapy session.
Right.
They'll put on a front. Yeah.
Right. But a good therapist can get them to drop their guard.
Yeah.
With the right kinds of questions. They see what the attitude is and what comes out with their answers.
If they can do it before the narcissist loses their tolerance for the inquiry.
Right.
Because again, once the therapist starts poking at the flaws, the narcissist isn't going to react, probably just walk out of the situation and just won't go back.
Right.
Yep.
According to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, which therapists use as a guide, the person needs only 55% of the identified characteristics to be considered a narcissist.
Oh boy.
The list here is descriptive to give you a more real-life picture of a narcissist's common behaviors. So we're going to talk about these more next week, I think, but these are the titles of the characteristics. Superiority and entitlement. The world of the narcissist is all about good, bad, superior, inferior, and right and wrong. There is a definite hierarchy with the narcissist at the top. The second one is a high need for attention and validation.
Mm-hmm.
A narcissist needs constant attention, even following you around the house, asking you to find things, or constantly saying something to grab your attention. Because no matter what they say, they're getting you to engage with them.
Right.
The third one,
like kids, if they don't get positive attention, they'll settle for negative attention.
They'll take what they can get.
Yep.
Exactly. And the negative attention, right. And
they'll get you pissed at them just to generate the negative attention, just to be the focus, your focus.
Right.
Yep.
Right. And so, so the negative attention is like, I have a client whose wife will send all these horrible text messages at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, midnight, 3 a.m., 4 a.m. to get him to engage. Because even though they're crappy things and it's just all this tirade about you're a bad person, it's like, well, if I'm so bad, why are you texting me? Like, Stop doing that. But it's all about having control, and she doesn't have control unless she can get him into the web and for him to answer her stupid questions,
right,
and for him to try to defend himself so she can then tear him down and say, you're wrong.
Yep.
That's a narcissist.
Yes.
The third one is perfectionism. A narcissist has an extremely high need for everything to be perfect. They believe they should be perfect. You should be perfect. All events should run perfectly. And even their kids should be acting perfectly. And when they don't, all hell breaks loose.
Mm-hmm.
The fourth one is the one we've talked about the most, which almost every narcissist has this: high need for control.
Yep.
Since narcissists are continually disappointed with the less than perfect way life unfolds, they want to do as much as possible to control it to their liking. They want and demand to be in control, and their sense of entitlement makes it seem logical to them that they should be in control of everything. Okay? So that control is the fourth one. The fifth common behavior is lack of responsibility. Always blaming and deflecting other people, never taking responsibility.
Yep.
So although they like to be in control, they never want to be responsible for results. Unless, of course, everything goes exactly the way it should.
Yep. Why are you being so dramatic? I'm not being dramatic. I'm just pointing out the drama you're creating.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's nutty, but if you've been with a person like that, it's making sense to you, right?
Yep.
To an outsider, it's like, that's nutty. Who'd be with someone like that? Well, you don't see it until you see it.
Yep.
Sometimes it takes an outsider to say, you know, this is totally not right. This is totally wrong. And you're sucked into this web. All right. So those are the first five. Then the sixth one is lack of boundaries. We talked about that today. A narcissist cannot accurately see where they end and you begin.
Right.
They are a lot like 2-year-olds. God, this is so much like you. I mean, not like you, but things that you've said. They're like a young kid, right?
Yep.
They believe that everything belongs to them. Everyone thinks and feels the same as they do, and everyone wants the same things that they do.
Right.
They just assume it, and that's why they take control. But it's a lack of boundaries because they're not even reading the room right. Right? The seventh one is one that we've talked about a lot: empathy. They lack empathy.
Yeah.
And that cannot be changed. That cannot be undone. That cannot be trained. It can't be learned. A narcissist has very little ability to empathize with others. They tend to be selfish, self-involved, which is like when they pick up the phone and call your friends and say how crappy you are. That's a selfish thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because the friends don't need to hear all that. They don't need to hear your side of the story.
Right.
Go on with your arguments or your divorce and leave everybody else out of it. They're so self-involved, and they're usually unable to understand what other people are feeling. A narcissist expects others to think and feel the same as they do and seldom give any thought to how the other people feel. They also are rarely apologetic, which is perfect, or feel remorseful or guilty for something that they did. Yeah. So like this client's wife, she'll take things and break them, like sentimental objects, a house. She will take it in a rage when she's angry with him for not responding to like things that she's trying to say or a crappy text message. And she'll take something that means a lot to him and break it. And then send a picture of it to him. Yeah. That's pretty narcissistic right there. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's other stuff going on too, but yeah.
Yep. The next one is emotional. Yeah. Yep. What?
I think there's other stuff going on there as well, but yeah, that is narcissistic.
Right. Yeah. She's abusive. Yeah. Emotional reasoning. You've probably made the mistake of trying to explain and use logic with your narcissist.
Yeah.
To get him to understand the painful effect his behaviors have had on you. You think that if he understands how much his behavior hurt you, he'll quit doing them. Your explanations, however, don't make sense to a narcissist who can only seem able to be aware of their own thoughts and feelings.
Right.
Although a narcissist may say they understand, they honestly don't, and they never will. The next one is splitting. The narcissist's personality is split into good and bad parts. And they also split everything in their relationships into good and bad. Any negative thoughts or behaviors are blamed on you or others, whereas they take credit for everything that is positive or good. They deny their negative words and actions while continually accusing you of being disapproving. Okay, so they split. They take credit for all the good things. They think that it was completely, because of them. And any negative fallout from any arguments or things that are done, they blame it on you.
Yep.
The next one, and I'm going to have to go through these quickly because look what time it is.
I know.
Fear. The narcissist's entire life is often motivated and energized by fear. Most narcissists' fears are deeply buried and repressed. They're constantly afraid of being ridiculed, rejected, or just plain wrong.
Yep.
The next one is anxiety. Anxiety is an ongoing, vague feeling that something bad is happening or is about to happen. Some narcissists show their anxiety by talking constantly about the doom that is about to happen. And some hide it and they repress their anxiety. But most narcissists project their anxiety onto their closest loved ones, aka their boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, or wife.
Yep.
They accuse you of being negative, unsupportive. My favorite one, they accuse you of being mentally ill, not putting them first, even though you've done everything to acquiesce to them, not responding to their needs, even though you've acquiesced during the entire relationship, or they accuse you of being selfish, even though you've put all your needs aside during this relationship. The next characteristic that is often with a narcissist is shame. All right. So keeping their vulnerabilities hidden is essential to the narcissist because they pretend that they have self-esteem with this false self that they put up.
Right.
Ultimately, however, this very thing makes it impossible for them to be completely real and transparent. So the thing that they're ashamed of, whatever that is, they can't get over it. Right. So for example, she says she had one narcissistic client who was into skydiving and other intense risk-taking behaviors. And they told this therapist that he never felt fear. Fear was evil. He was clearly on a crusade to try to defeat any fear in his life. So they can often look fearless, but they're trying to prove, they're constantly trying to get over their fear of life and fear of being less than.
Fear of people seeing behind the curtain.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they go do these crazy things like skydiving to prove to everybody, wow, that guy's fearless,
Yep.
The next one is inability to be truly intimate. Because of their inability to understand feelings, their lack of empathy, and their constant need for self-protection, a narcissist can never truly love or connect emotionally with other people. They cannot look at the world from anyone else's perspective. They're essentially emotionally blind and alone. This makes them emotionally needy. So these people often go through many relationships. They go through many marriages, and it's the common denominator is them.
Yep.
Right. The next one is can't cooperate. I love this one because this kind of explains a lot of people's spouse or significant other that's a narcissist. They can't cooperate and be a team member. Thoughtful, cooperative behaviors require a real understanding of each other's feelings. How will the other person feel if I do this? Will this action make both of us happy?
Yeah.
This is what a normal, healthy person says. How is this going to affect our relationship? These are questions that narcissists don't have the capacity or the motivation to think about. Don't expect the narcissist to understand your feelings, to give in during an argument, or give up anything that they want for your benefit. All caps. It's useless. Okay. Then she goes into what about sociopaths, because that's often a combination with a narcissist, but not always.
Right.
And basically the conclusion is, for a narcissist, life is all about them. They create an appealing and charming facade to hook you and people in their life, coworkers, everyone, into a relationship, but hidden under that false self is a multitude of relationship limitations and dysfunctional emotional responses. The narcissist promises to take care of you and make you the center of their life, only to turn the tables on you and demand that you be totally focused on them.
Right.
You get hooked into this relationship under false pretenses. What you were offered and thought you were getting disappeared almost immediately after you made a long-term commitment to this person. It will never return for any length of time. And then in the next chapter, she shares information about the qualities and relationship patterns that you brought to this relationship and how they mesh with the narcissist's characteristics. So we're going to look at what we do when we get into the dance with a narcissist. And so we're going to have some questions for reflection, like, what of these behaviors presented here does the narcissist in your life have? And what traits or behaviors attracted you to the narcissist? And which of those are still present on a daily basis now?
Right.
And what effect did the narcissist's blame and anger have on you? Because that's not healthy and it ain't going to change.
Right.
And that's proven by all the professionals out there, and in particular, those that have written about it. Right. And it's also in the manual that the therapists use to gauge. They have the narcissist to be defined and diagnosed as a narcissist. They have to hit 55% of those 12 or 13 quirky, unhealthy characteristics.
All right. We'll talk about this in the next podcast next week, right?
We're probably going to do it next week because I want to have a little run on narcissism, and then we'll go into dating and profiles.
Yeah. Good. We'll have some fun with that.
We'll have some fun with that. We always do. But it's important for people to share the show because many people truly are with a narcissist.
Yeah.
And they're trapped and they don't know how to get out of the web, Lou.
Right.
So share this
on the web.
Share this on Facebook, everybody.
All right. We'll see you next time.
That's right. That's it for this week. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Share this podcast on your Facebook page because people you don't know need it. Well, people that you know.